Good morning on this Thursday, 9/11/2025. I know we all know, those of us who lived through this, where we were 24 years ago. I imagine next year there will be a huge deal made about 9/11. I'm a little surprised it's been as quiet on the national news and everything else, even in the newspapers, about this particular day. It does make me feel more and more grateful for all of those men and women that serve our country, because I will never forget where I was on that day 24 years ago watching the plane go through the World Trade Center. So I guess it just takes a little moment of reflection. We all should be doing that on this day and remind ourselves how lucky we are to be here, especially when you look at all the unrest over all the world. Crazy. But reflect as much as you can today. That's all I can say. We got a busy show. As always on Thursdays, Pete Pranica will join us, and that'll be in about 7 minutes. Bill Bender on college football, the sporting news writer for college football, really excellent analyst of all things college football. He joins us near the bottom of the hour. And then Jarvis Greer will end our Thursday as he always does. You know, the Ryder Cup is coming up in, I think, just 2 weeks, right? There's this sort of warm-up tournament. 10 of the 12 U.S. members are going to be playing in this tournament in Napa Valley in California. 2 are not. One, Bryson DeChambeau, can't because he's a LIV member. And I'm glad the PGA Tour stayed firm with that. You know how I feel about LIV. But Bryson DeChambeau, Xander Schauffele is not. Now, I've heard conflicting reports. Some say he's about to have a baby, his first baby maybe, his wife and he expecting. So maybe that's a legit thing. If not, I don't know why he's not showing up, because this is supposed to be team building. There's a big dinner on Tuesday night. That's a little disappointing if indeed there is not a baby about to be arriving. But it made me start to think about golf, and we're all going to be tuned in. You know, the price of the Ryder Cup is expensive if you're going to this thing at Bethpage Black. It's the tickets I saw, I'm sure it's on the secondary market, $1,400. Whew. You got to love golf to pay $1,400 a ticket. Who gets one, right? You're going to get two. You're almost spending $3,000. And that's for Friday, the opening round. Lord knows what the final round's going to cost. Crazy. But it made me start to think, Landon Schmidt, about the FedEx Cup playoffs, which I think are, the openers in Memphis. I love that. But the truth is, they're not really playoffs. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, it's especially since, they don't hold, like Rory, for example, this year. If you're able to hold out against him and still play in the final round, that kind of defeats the purpose of a playoffs. I mean, you would never see anybody from the NBA or NFL say, "No, we don't want to play this playoff round, so we'll just wait until the championship." It doesn't work like that.
Well, the only thing that's sort of like a playoff that carries over is you go from 70 to 50 to 30, and that's intriguing, and that's okay. But there's no significance to winning and moving on.
Yeah.
Like, you're eliminated if you don't get in that top 50 after the first one. But, that had nothing to do with that particular tournament in some aspects. Some of it is what happened in the regular season. There's just not a real playoff. There's no sense of it.
No.
So you have to have an incentive. So I have figured out a way to fix the FedEx Cup playoffs.
Perfect.
So bear with me. The top 70 come. You're still cutting 50 to 30 in the 3. But what you're doing is, if you win the first playoff, you are guaranteed a seat in a 4th competition. I'll explain later. If you win the second tournament, you're absolutely getting a spot in this 4th thing. If you win the third tournament, you got a place. If you won the regular season FedEx Cup, you get a spot. So here's what you're going to do. Memphis is going to be Memphis. They're playing the second round in St. Louis next year at Belle Reve. The third round is going to be, or the third playoff is going to be in Atlanta, right? The winners of those tournaments will play a one round on a Sunday in Atlanta for $10 million. And you get into that playoff if you win one of the first three tournaments or you're the very first guy. The automatic qualifiers are you regular season FedEx Cup champ and win one of the first three playoffs. In other words, we're going to start in Atlanta on Wednesday instead of on Thursday. We're going to play Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then on Sunday, the fourth playoff will be the four guys for. Right now it's $10 million, but we could even up it. Four guys get to play for $20 million. Now the rule is you've got to be in all of the events. You cannot miss an event. And if we have multiple winners, we'll just go on the pecking order of the regular season FedEx Cup. In other words, if the number one player wins the first playoff too, so now there's an open spot, the number two player on the FedEx Cup gets in. At least there's something you get for winning and an extra chance to make a whole bunch of money. And who wouldn't watch on Sunday four guys going for $10 or $20 million? Wouldn't you do that?
I mean, that's the top four guys duking it out in golf. I'd sign me up for that. That'd be great.
And it's really a playoff.
Yeah, exactly. That was going to be my first comment. Was it's actually a playoff format where winning actually leads up to something like a playoff would.
Now I need a meeting with the new commissioner of the PGA Tour, or executive director, whatever they're calling that thing. And I'm not going to demand that it be called the Wolo Cup. I really won't.
That's big.
They can have it. They can have this idea for free. Gratis, because I want to see golf be better.
No royalty fees or anything?
No. But that seems to me a logical fix.
I think so.
You got to make it a playoff. It's not a playoff. And I do think on that Sunday, they would get great ratings.
I think so.
And they got to do it before the football season starts. We know that. They've already figured that one out.
Yeah.
We're sitting in the Family Leisure studio. It has finally happened. They've changed the sale. It's now the world's biggest spa sale. Where spas started under $3,000, spas and swim spas are up to 30% off. Floor model specials can be had for great prices. Just ask. And the cold plunges, that's the newest thing. They put ice in there. You go from like a steam to a cold plunge. It gets your heart really going. They're under $5,000. Also, you still get the free umbrella with the purchase of select patio furniture sets. Swimming pool clearance pricing, that's through the end of October. By now, and you'll save before the price increases. Just get to I-40 and Whidden Road. Tell them we sent you, because you get free installation if you do that on a pool. Go to our friends at Family Leisure. On Thursday, we start with Pete Prenica, the TV voice of the Memphis Grizzlies. Good morning, Pete. How are you? Still resting up, getting ready?
Yeah, it's going to get crazy real soon here. League meetings, a trip to Notre Dame, and then about a week after that, training camp. So, yeah, it's ramping up.
Trip to Notre Dame. Are you going to see the A&M game this weekend?
No. I'm going to see James Taylor in South Haven this weekend, and next weekend go see the Purdue game.
What do you think happens this week? Because it's my sense, honestly, that Notre Dame has to win this game. If they were to lose to A&M, they would be 0-2. And if they're really looking at strength of schedule, like they say they're going to this year, I don't think there's enough on that schedule that Notre Dame still has left that would get them into a 12-team playoff. I think this is a must-win game for the Irish. Do you agree?
Oh, absolutely. 0-2, and you're basically out of the mix. Even if you run the table, you'd have to have a bunch of other two-loss teams. So this is as must-win as it gets.
All right, a couple of things that are of newsworthiness with the NBA. Let's start with this Kawhi Leonard investigation that, he got paid extra money as an endorsement to do nothing with a company that the ownership was a small percentage of ownership. We know that his owner, Steve Ballmer, is one of the wealthiest men in the world. But I guess my question for you is, do you think this is a unique thing, or do you think when it comes to some superstars that rules are kind of fudged in order to compensate to make sure they keep their star players? Is this something that's fairly common, or is this unique?
I would like to think that it is unique. Some of the reporting has indicated that team governors are very, very fearful of running afoul of the NBA's rules and regulations as far as what you can do for compensation and how it counts against the salary cap. So I would like to think that this is an outlier, particularly when you have apparently his Uncle Dennis making all kinds of demands. I mean,
right.
when he was going to be in Toronto, he wanted a piece of the Maple Leafs, for crying out loud. So I don't think a lot of players are asking for some of the things Kawhi Leonard was asking for.
That to me is incredible in its own right, considering his track record of availability. It's not necessarily his fault that he's oft injured, but I didn't think he was in the position of leverage like apparently he thinks he is, and he did get this deal. And it does make you think, because of the uncle's hardline negotiating stance, let's just say, with other teams, that maybe this practice has taken place before.
I couldn't speak to that. I would like to think that this is an outlier rather than common practice in the NBA.
Let's just say it is. And let's just say this is a legit thing, because you can make the case that Ballmer had nothing to do with this. He's not on the board. His ownership is under 3% of this company that gave Kawhi an extra $27 million. But let's just say it is, because there's a lot of people, many people, probably majority of the people, think that there is some skullduggery there. What kind of penalty should the Clippers have to pay for this?
It's just a very, very good question, because now the new reporting from Pablo Torre seems to indicate that a guy that owns 1% of the Clippers but is the alternate governor to Steve Ballmer was the one that, when the payment was late and the company was failing, that this guy kicked in $2 million of his own money to make good on the payment that was a few days or a month maybe overdue to Kawhi Leonard. It could be that Ballmer is not the person that was driving this. It could be somebody else. I think that's what they have to get to the bottom of. What did Ballmer know? When did he know it? And who was providing the money? Like I said, this latest reporting for Pablo Torre seems to indicate that this minority owner and alternate governor was the one who ended up making good on a payment as that company was about to fail. They didn't have enough money for their own payroll. This guy comes in and donates or kicks in $2 million so Kawhi can get his while the rest of the employees can't get paid. That's bad.
It is bad. They're so hardline on the cap. And they should be. I have no problem with the way the NBA sets it up now with the aprons to make it penal if you go over what they think is a competitive guideline. I'm okay with all of that. So I think if this is the case, there should be some major financial penalty like the taxes are. However, when you got Steve Ballmer, does that really hurt him? There needs to be draft choices involved too. There's got to be something if indeed this is an accurate investigation.
It has to be over and above financial. I mean, financial really doesn't matter. You're right, Steve Ballmer, fine him $3 million and it's like $10 to you or me.
Exactly.
It doesn't really matter. You may have to go back to the Joe Smith case where I think, wasn't Minnesota docked like 5 draft picks or something crazy like that?
Wow.
I mean, you could see something like that. I think there's gonna have to be some type of personnel player issue, that they can't have the same access to players that they had before, and obviously the easiest way to do that is through the draft.
The other newsworthy rule change is that on buzzer beaters at the end of a quarter, end of a half, end of the game for that matter, the last shot, if it's a full court shot, will not count against the player it will count against the percentage of the team, but not the player. I think that's a good rule. It always bugged the heck out of me, honestly, where on an inbounds and the guy gets it the top of the key in his defensive area of the floor, that he doesn't take the shot because he doesn't want it to count against his percentage, which I always thought was a really selfish thing. Now the league takes that away. You like it?
Yeah, they did that in summer league, and I'm totally fine with it. You know, there guys have made a practice of, I'm going to wait until a beat after the horn, and then I'm going to throw up a three-quarter shot because I'm probably not going to make it anyway. So yeah, that's a good rule change. I have no issue with that.
No, I didn't like the players who wouldn't take it though. I always thought that was selfish.
Yeah, it was a bit cheesy.
All right, we learned last week that the New York Knicks did a, I think, serious interview with Dawn Staley, the great South Carolina women's basketball coach, to, I believe, just consider a woman head coach in the NBA. I always thought that Harmon, the lady that was with San Antonio.
Becky
Hammond, thank you.
Becky Hammond, yeah.
Yeah, I always thought she would end up being the first, if there ever is going to be one. And it's interesting that Dawn Staley said she probably heard herself when she talked about how the Knicks would handle all the media scrutiny if indeed she became the first one, and she thought that ended up maybe hurting her. She stepped on her own feet. Do you think the Knicks were serious about Dawn Staley, who's clearly a great coach? And do you think in the next, say, 10 years, we'll see a woman head coach in the NBA?
Next 10, absolutely. Next 5, possibly. There are really good coaches out there. As far as the New York situation, I mean, the New York Knicks, they don't like dealing with the media, period. Let alone if they would have had the first female head coach in the history of the NBA. So maybe Dawn Staley's right with that. I think if you are a forward-thinking organization, you do cast a wide net, and certainly she is accomplished. And that would, I'm totally supported. I mean, like you, I would have thought Becky Hammond. I think Becky Hammond, may have gotten sideways with a few people, for whatever reason. But I think either one of those two would make a good NBA head coach. She's
done a good job in the WNBA. And I wonder, I know, has every team had a woman assistant coach at this point? I know the Grizzlies have had at least 2.
It's a really good question. I don't know that everyone has. I don't think they have, but I think we're probably trending toward a majority that have had a female assistant coach, yes.
I'm curious, would it come from that pool? Would it come from the WNBA pool? Would it come from a great collegiate head coach? Because the pros are different than college, even with the women and the WNBA. So I really don't know where that talent pool would come, but I know that talent pool is growing.
Yeah, and I would have to think it would have to come from college, a college head coach or a W head coach. It's hard to, unless we get to a point, and, at one point Becky Hammond, I guess, was the lead assistant for Greg Popovich.
Yeah.
Unless you have a woman who's a lead assistant, I don't know that, typically people who aren't lead assistants in the NBA don't get to be head coaches. So that would require, whether it's Jenny Buchek in Indiana, who is very, very highly regarded, if she became, the lead head coach or the lead coach, or lead assistant rather, for Rick Carlisle, maybe that's a path for her. But I would agree with you. I think it's got to come from college or a head coach in the WNBA. Head coaching experience, I think, is going to be paramount.
I saw this story where Trey Lyles is leaving the NBA, and he's been this would be, I think, his 11th year if he stayed in the NBA. He's been a 10-year vet, to go to a European team. And, I remember years ago when there were great older soccer players in the EuroLeague that would come over and play in the old NASL because it was a great way to grow a league and get another payday at a level where they could still be competitive, where maybe we're slipping a little bit in Europe. Do you think we will see a new trend that way? that you'll see veterans that still have marketability and some star power that might go over to the EuroLeague?
Sure. They will pay. I don't know what the tax setup is there. A little less pressure, but you still get to play ball and be a celebrity. So I wouldn't rule that out at all. I think it's an interesting concept, but basketball has become such a global game, and I'm sure that there are teams out there that would be thirsty to have a former NBA player come out and play for them.
And those guys have money. They pay a lot of bread too at the upper levels of Euro. Speaking of which, Santi Aldama leading Spain at the Euro Cup. Are you keeping up with that at all, by any chance?
I have not, honestly.
I know Luka Doncic had 39 the other night, and his team got bounced, so you know how good that level is. But
and Şengün, that what I did see is Alperen Şengün just posted a triple-double like in no time at all.
Yeah. But Santi has played for the Spanish team now in a couple of international events, and he's been their leader. What do we expect out of Santi this year for the Grizz? What are good numbers? What are the contributions?
It remains to be seen if he'd be a starter. He's coming off the bench. I mean, you got Jaren Jackson Jr. ahead of him. So I think a guy who can potentially give you a double-double off the bench, I would go, 15-7, 14-6, something like that off the bench is going to be very, very important. His leadership, his physicality has to continue to increase. It got better last year. He has to be a player out there that other teams don't feel like they can push around. So leadership, toughness, physicality, and then production.
All right, last thing for you. I noticed that the Grizzlies have signed now their final two-way player. It's Olivier Maxence Prosper from, I think he was a pretty good pick a few years ago with Dallas, right? If I recall correctly.
Right, out of Marquette, yep.
So, if he's the last two-way guy, that means that Jemai Mashak, the really good defensive player from Tennessee, who had a pretty good summer league, is he just going to be assigned to the hustle now? Is he clearly just a hustle guy the rest of the way?
Given the way it's shaken out, that would appear to be the case. Because I don't think there's any room on the full roster at this point. But things can change. They may have wanted to go with Omax because he does have a little bit of NBA experience, a little bit more seasoning to him. So it'll be interesting to see how these rosters all shake out.
That would seem to me to be a pretty good two-way guy, and he's big, 6'8", something like that.
Yeah, I mean, you can't have enough big physical wings, and Omax certainly fits that profile.
All right. Next week we'll be talking a little bit about camp because that's only 2-3 weeks away, right?
Yep.
Man, time flies. Pete Pranica, thank you much. We'll talk next Thursday.
Sounds good.
He's the TV voice of your Memphis Grizzlies. We take a break. When we come back, we'll head to Columbus, Ohio. That's where Bill Bender lives, the great writer from the Sporting News. College football is front and center next.
Start your day with Sports 56 Mornings with Greg Gaston and Eli Savoy. Weekday mornings from 7 to 10, right here on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM.
Getting engaged is one of life's most spectacular occasions. And when you find your ring at Sissy's Log Cabin, the promise of a lifetime begins with our promise to always provide unmatched quality, superior service, and brilliant natural diamonds. Find your dream engagement ring, wedding bands, and more when you shop sissyslogcabin.com or stop by any of our 7 locations. Begin the rest of your lives brilliantly. Only at Sissy's Log Cabin, because life's too short for ordinary jewelry.
Do you know one of the best things you can do for your employees or family's health? Provide Arctic Clear bottled water. Arctic Clear bottled water is your locally owned and operated bottled water provider. Arctic Clear is 100% natural spring water with free delivery and setup, dependable service, and no long-term contracts. What an easy choice. Call Jeff Manus today, 901-382-2363, or visit arctic-clear.com. Arctic Clear bottled water. Call now, 382-2363. That's 382-2363.
I'm Gary York. I'm the service director at Lexus of Memphis. Our service department wants to be more than just a place where you get your oil changed. We do glass repair, windshield replacement, recalibration of your camera and sonar systems, even wheel repair, tire replacement, all the things you would expect from a luxury automotive dealer. Please check out our website. You can schedule your appointment, check out our specials, hours of operation, or if you'd like to do it in person, please reach out to one of our associates at 901-271-5199.
Hi, I'm Glenda Hastings, owner of Napa Cafe, and I'm inviting you over for dinner. Treat yourself tonight with a delightful dinner of scrumptious combinations, fresh salads, homemade soups, or maybe start with an appetizer, like our baked Dungeness crab dip with manchego cheese, lemon, garlic, and French baguette toast. Drift into one of our fresh seafood dishes, like the caramelized sea scallops with curry beurre blanc, black forbidden rice, and Thai mango salad. Or our ancho honey glazed salmon with creamy black bean puree, avocado pico de gallo, and jalapeno crema. Maybe you're looking for something cozy and comforting, like our Duroc pork chop with apple brandy demi-glaze and blue cheese bacon mashed potatoes. We have something for everyone. Napa Cafe, open Wednesday through Saturday for dinner starting at 5 o'clock. For reservations, visit our website at napacafe.com. Come join us. I'd sure love to see you.
Congratulations to Napa Cafe, celebrating 27 years of great food and service for you. Napa Cafe.
Now back to Wolo and Friends on Sports 56. Here once again is the voice of the Tigers, Dave Woloshin.
Let's head to Columbus, Ohio. The Sporting News college football writer Bill Bender joins us every Thursday in this time slot. Good morning, Bill. Some news made in Columbus, Ohio this week. Ryan Day, the great Ohio State football coach, was pretty open about his thoughts about this new single transfer portal window, which truly, because of the date they're going to put this window, and it'll only be the one in the winter that you can transfer schools, would come right in the heart of the college football playoffs, which actually makes no sense to me. What were your thoughts when you first heard about it and then you heard the Ohio State coach? Good morning.
Yeah, Dave, thanks for having me on as always. Obviously, I understand from their point of view. They have to make decisions. I always go back to Sonny Dykes at the College Football Playoff Championship a couple years ago. He was at the title game, but he was talking about how they had players on campus, potential transfers while he was there. The calendar is a little wonky. I'm not opposed to the one portal deal. I just think it's going to be difficult for certain schools like Ohio State, Georgia, Alabama, the playoff regulars, to manage the transfer portal in that setup.
I'm 100% with you. I like the fact, because I think it's too hard on coaches. Their years are so incredible now in terms of commitment and never getting time off. Hard to be with your family. I agree with the single transfer portal window. I 100% agree. I don't understand why they didn't think about this, because that was the complaint of everybody, because even if you're not in the playoffs, you've got bowl games you're actually trying to make legit. Let's put it that way. And so this portal window was in the way. Why can't they just say, when the championship game is completed, 2 days after that, the portal window opens and you get 10 days? That just seems to be so simple. Why can't they figure that out?
Well, I think the school calendar also gets in the way, I always go back to, I know I went to Ohio University. We've changed since, but some, schools like ours were on quarters while others were on semesters. I always, and I don't know, I'm going to be honest, I don't know the school calendar for all 136 FBS schools. Maybe I should look those up. But you get what I'm saying. I think that's another factor. It's not like NFL free agency, for example.
I hear you. Most I don't. Is anybody still on quarters? Because when I was in college, and this is in the early 70s, we switched over 1 year from quarters to semesters, and I think the majority are on semesters now. I don't know that 100%.
I would think so.
But why? And I hear that, but I don't understand why that really totally gets in the way. I guess you have to wait till you're Do you have to wait academically till you're through? I mean, I don't. There are kids that have quit that are still getting NIL money, right? Or they were,
Right.
yeah, and I know you have to honor that scholarship through the semester or the quarter that you were under, even if you decided to enter the portal. So I don't understand why that really plays that major a role. You're just saying when this semester is over, I'm out of here.
Right. And again, that's something that these coaches have to deal with. One of the things I didn't like last year, obviously, was I don't like that the portal would force kids, and I'm going to use an example that actually worked out for him, Bo Pribula, the Missouri quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
But he was a key piece of that Penn State football team last year. They used him a lot, and he ends up transferring during the playoff run. So he misses out on one of the semifinals. But like I said, it works out. He goes to Missouri. He's lit it up through a couple games and, has the Tigers in the top 25, got a chance to play. So I just think it forces certain players to make really tough decisions on an unfair timetable in some ways.
I'm not sure what the solution is because I think you have to consider the whole year and the way the burden on coaches. Not, everybody goes, well, they're making $8 million a year. I don't care, But seriously, I think it is so hard to be a coach now, and you're talking about the players and their little window here. There has to be some sort of a solution. I think one window is the right way. I just don't know when that window would be that would be fair on all sides. Speaking of fairness and eligibility and things of this nature, there are a couple of fronts where Diego Pavia, the quarterback at Vandy, started it, and there's another case that is fairly prominent that actually involves the University of Memphis, and that is Cortez Braham, the receiver that was at Nevada that has moved here to play with his quarterback, who's now the Tigers quarterback, Brendan Lewis. They got extra years of eligibility because they played junior college, and the sense was junior college shouldn't count against it. The NCAA is saying, oh, yeah, junior college should. It's developmental. It's unfair. And then those guys that might have gotten scholarships in college aren't going to get them now because this JC kid with his sixth year is going to get that scholarship. What do you think will happen in all of this, Bill Bender?
Well, again, the portal works both ways. I understand you have the sixth-year players. We have a feature. I know you guys are familiar with this guy, Joey Aguilar at Tennessee now.
Yeah.
And we wrote about him today. I talked to his junior college coach, Mike Darr, and it was a good conversation because here's a kid that was considering being a firefighter, and then he goes to Diablo Valley for a couple seasons, plays at App for a couple seasons, and, here he is. He could be the quarterback that helps Tennessee break an 8-game losing streak to Georgia on Saturday, and that's a pick that's gaining some steam. I like stories like that. I like that he's able to do that, but it's all ties together to this conversation because who's he being propped up against? Nico Yamaliava, who left during the spring portal to go to UCLA, and truly bizarre story that dominated the headlines at the time. But to me, it flashed the good and the bad out of the transfer portal.
Well, I think if we examine this trade now, because that's what it ended up being, Aguilar for Iamaleava, I would say Tennessee won the deal just based on the first two games.
Yeah, I mean it's early, right? So we've got that piece of it done, but certainly they've won so far. Now I'm fair in two ways. Nico, there's a way to go, and it's not all him at UCLA. If you've watched them play, they got drilled by Utah. He's not playing defensive tackle. You know what I mean? He can't stop the run. And the other thing to keep in mind is if you look at Tennessee's first two games last year when Nico took over at starter, the numbers are very similar. They had two huge blowout victories, and then played at Oklahoma, it got a little bit tougher. Played at Arkansas, it got a lot tougher. And so we're going to find out. We've been teased into this before where Tennessee looks really, really good and then loses to Georgia. But I think they've got a really good chance on Saturday, especially if Joey Aguilar continues to throw the ball down the field the way he's been doing it.
Back to my original premise on this. Do you think a kid who played junior college football should not have those years count against his eligibility when it comes to playing Division I football?
I think they should. I'm against, and I know that sounds bad, but to me, 4 years of college football is what you should play. Now, there are extreme examples. We know about Chris Winkie back in the day where they would play minor league baseball, and I think he was like 27 or 28 when he won the Heisman. Those are, and I get that. I think we're to the point now where most of the COVID exemptions are gone.
Yeah.
Or very few
I
are
think
left.
so.
We're getting close. I hope. Gosh, I hope, right? I'm more of you play a year of junior college football. Unfortunately, I think that should count. I know what the circumstances are, but you hear coaches talk about like a case like Diego Pavia. It's a special case. I want kids to play, but I don't know. Am I wrong in saying that?
No, I first off, I've heard coaches, and I've had 2 or 3 of them say this to me. They think the fairest way to do this is to say, from here on out, even with injury, just take away redshirt years. You've got 5 years to play. You can play 4 years, you can play 5 years, but that's it. That's all you're getting from the time you start to the end. So if you get a redshirt year, you're going to play 4 years. If you're a great player and you're going to stick around, you might get 5 years. They think that's really what is going to end up happening here. If that's the case, I'm really okay with that, but this guy, the guy's on his 6th school in his 7th year. That's not college.
Right, and I agree, and I think that's probably the source of some frustration. You've heard Luke Fickell talk about this. You've heard Steve Sarkisian talk about this. I'm of the opinion of they did change the red shirt rule, which I was in favor of. If you want to not burn your red shirt and play 4 games, that does spice up the bowl games a little bit.
Yeah.
Honestly, when you see a kid that and with the attrition we have because of the portal, Dave, I remember watching a bowl game a couple years ago where Syracuse was forced to use a tight end at quarterback.
Right.
I mean, that's not what this thing was designed to do, like everything else, NIL and the transfer portal. I have no problem with either one of them, but we have to acknowledge that the intent of what they wanted those to be versus the reality of what they've become are 2 very separate things.
Well, if you think about this, the way football has it's better than basketball. So you can basically play in 4 games plus a bowl game. That's 5 of 13 games that your team's going to play and still keep that year, which is why it makes more sense to just have 5. Whereas college basketball, if you play 1 second of a game, you're out. Mm-hmm. You lose your year. That makes absolutely no sense to me either. All right, let's get to some of the games that have either been played or are going to be played. And let's start with, is the early story of the year USF having beaten Boise, putting themselves in position to make the playoff as the group of 5 rep, and then turning around and going and beating Florida in the Swamp. They got to be the early story of the year, right?
Oh, it's incredible, right? Like the back-to-back victories, Byram Brown beating Florida. Something. My Bobcats play at Ohio Stadium this weekend, and this. Don't worry, I'll get to the point. Here was the point I made about Florida, and it would be the same at Tennessee and the same anywhere else. When you're at Florida, you can't lose to a group of 5 school in your own state, right?
Right.
That magnifies everything more than, let's say they would have lost to South Alabama. It's still different. They lost to South Florida, and now South Florida has become this Cinderella, and there's probably a section of Gator fans that want Alex Golesh as their head coach now, and he just beat them. So the point of that is to tell you that Ohio State up here, and the reason I know this is Ohio State has not lost to an in-state school since they lost 7-6 to Oberlin in 1921. So whoever that Ohio State coach was, he was feeling the heat the next day, right?
Well, let me give you this stat. The last time the University of Florida lost a game to another team within the state of Florida that isn't Miami and Florida State?
When was it?
It was Stetson in 1938.
See, you can't do those.
Yeah.
And if Ohio was somehow to beat Ohio State on Saturday, it would reverberate a lot louder than most games do. I mean, Michigan obviously lost to Toledo a couple years ago, and that registered. Up here, honestly, I tell people this all the time. The App State upset was, obviously what it was.
Yeah.
But that Toledo upset probably hurt Rich Rodriguez even more, when he was there after Lloyd Carr. So, yeah, I mean, that's part of the game. But, yeah, South Florida, what a start. What an opportunity. I made the joke earlier this week, Dave, that if they were somehow to beat Miami, they should tweak the schedule and let them go play Florida State next week.
Do you think that's possible?
I think it's possible no matter what happens Saturday that they're going to make a nice little run here in the American. And the American is going to be really fun with Memphis, with Tulane. Tulane's got an opportunity to knock off Duke, who has their former quarterback on Saturday, with Navy, who's playing well. I do think the G5, I guess we call it G6 now, they got playoff berths coming from your conference down there. It's just a matter of, do they cannibalize each other, or does one school rise above the rest?
Well, I will say this to you, just because I happen to be the voice of the University of Memphis. They have every important home game in the league. They got Tulane, they got South Florida, they got Navy all at home. So they have a say in this. I think they're going to have to beat Arkansas to be in that conversation because USF already has 2 top 25 wins. I wouldn't be shocked because of their defensive front and Byron Brown that they stay in this game with Miami. We shall see for sure. Georgia, Tennessee, what do you think happens in this one?
Well, I hinted at it earlier. I mean, can Joey Aguilar throw the ball down the field against that Georgia defense? And if he can, it's possible. They haven't won this game since Josh Dobbs threw a Hail Mary in 2016. I actually talked to Dobbs about that a few years ago. It was a great conversation. And, for Georgia, they haven't really turned Gunnar Stockton loose. He's got to throw the ball down the field a little bit. They've only had 10 pass attempts of 10 yards or more, and that was against Marshall and Austin Peay. So he will have to make some throws for them to win this football game on the road. It ought to be good. It's hard to read the lines for me. I know where this spread started. I know where it's at now. And if it lowers too much, to me it's like, there's almost some value in taking Georgia here at that point.
I think it's going to be a great game. I want to see if Aguilar is as great a player as he might be when he's taking on that Georgia defense. Last thing, you never saw this one coming, the name Giannis Patich?
I do not. Help me out.
Come on. You're a Bobcat. You're an Ohio University alum. He's the kicker Memphis stole from your team.
Yeah, you know what? You're the second guy to stump me on a kicker this week. We played a game at Sporting News with the editorial staff, and they brought up the Oregon kicker. I knew his name, but then I didn't know who he played for. But I assume that this kicker's off to a hot start.
You kicked a 55-yarder career. You kicked a 52-yarder for your team last year. 55-yarder in his first game. Then he missed a 46-yarder, which he was bummed about after. He's a great kid. His ancestry is Croatian, and he's a delight so far. I met his parents. But I thought you might know him because he was a really good kicker. When the coaching staff changed, he decided to make a change. So Memphis is lucky to get him.
Yeah, well, that's great news. And, keep an eye on keep an eye on the Bobcats this weekend. Tim Albin left for Charlotte. He's got some work to do. Coach Smith, here's one thing I will tell you really quickly. He, in his presser this week, he said receivers Jeremiah Smith and Caleb Downs, and everybody jumped down his throats. That's the importance of one word. All you had to do is say players, and then they would have known. Or if he said receivers and said Carnell Tate, we blow everything way out of proportion. You know that in your job, but I give Coach the benefit of the doubt.
Bill Bender, as always, we appreciate you. We'll talk to you next Thursday.
Hey, no problem. Thank you.
That's our college football writer from the Sporting News, the one and only Bill Bender. We take a break. We head downtown to talk to the Hall of Famer. Jarvis Greer is next on Wolo and Friends.
You have opinions?
I think it's over.
Of course you do.
I don't think it's that simple.
Everyone does.
I got all the answers.
Hit us up on the Sissy's Log Cabin listener line at 360-8255.
Don't miss the 53rd Annual Pink Palace Crafts Fair at Audubon Park, September 26th through the 28th. Bring the whole family and enjoy 3 days of food, live music, and of course, shopping for one-of-a-kind arts and crafts from across the Mid-South. It's a Memphis tradition you don't want to miss. The Pink Palace Crafts Fair, September 26th through the 28th at Audubon Park. Sponsored by First Horizon Foundation, Friends of the Pink Palace, and your friends at Sports 56.
More fiber and laxatives, eh?
Who are you?
I'm future you.
Future me?
Constipation with belly pain still coming back? Our doctor figured it out. It's irritable bowel syndrome with constipation, or IBS-C, and Linzess could help you get ahead of it.
Linzess linaclotide is a prescription medicine that treats IBS-C in adults. It's not a laxative. It's a once-daily pill that helps you get ahead of your symptoms. It's proven to help you have more frequent and complete bowel movements and helps relieve overall abdominal symptoms, belly pain, discomfort, and bloating. These symptoms were studied in combination, not individually. Do not give Linzess to children less than 2. It may harm them. Do not take Linzess if you have a bowel blockage. Get immediate help if you develop unusual or severe stomach pain, especially with bloody or black stools. The most common side effect is diarrhea, sometimes severe. If it's severe, stop taking Linzess and call your doctor right away. Other side effects include gas, stomach area pain, and swelling. Talk to your doctor and say yes to Linzess. Learn more at linzess.com or call 1-800-LINZESS.
Tito's Handmade Vodka is America's favorite vodka for a reason. From the first legal distillery in Texas, Tito's is 6 times distilled till it's just right and naturally gluten-free, making it a high-quality spirit that mixes with just about everything. From the smoothest martinis to the best Bloody Marys, beyond the bottle, Tito's has gained a reputation for giving back, teaming up with nonprofits around the world to serve its communities and do good for dogs. Make your next cocktail with Tito's and learn more at Tito'sVodka.com. 40% alcohol by volume, namely 80 proof, crafted to be savored responsibly.
The NFL season is rolling. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code HERD. That's code HERD to get $200 in bonus bets instantly when you place your first $5 bet. Plus, over $200 off NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 and over. Age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Fees may apply in Illinois, void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. See sportsbook.draftkings.com/promos. NFL Sunday Ticket offer for new subscribers only and auto renews until canceled. Digital games and commercial use excluded. Restrictions apply. Additional NFL Sunday Ticket terms at youtube.com/go/NFL Sunday Ticket/terms. Limited time offer.
If you need glass replaced, there's only one name you need to know. Benswinger Glass, the largest full-service glass company in the U.S. They've been an industry leader for over 145 years. For all your residential, commercial, or auto glass needs, Benswinger Glass is the name you need to know. 24-hour emergency service for all commercial customers, plus a nationwide warranty on all professionally installed glass. Visit Benswinger Glass in Midtown at 340 South Hollywood across from the Liberty Bowl. Visit benswingerglass.com. Benswinger Glass.
Now back to Wolo and Friends on Sports 56. Here once again is the voice of the Tigers, Dave Woloshin.
We head downtown. We talk with Jarvis Greer, our Hall of Famer. You were all giddy this morning when I spoke with you because the Memphis women's soccer team is now number 8 in the country in one poll, and they are number 10 in the other poll. Tennessee's now number 1, and the Tigers, of course, played to a 0-0 draw and really outplayed the University of Tennessee in that game. Good morning. That was exciting news.
Yeah, great news. I'm so happy for Brooks Monaghan. He's a former Brothers boy, CPHS grad who played, and he's been on the job now 26 years, and that is the most successful program on that campus. Congratulations to the women. And it's amazing, Dave, because out of 28 players on the roster, 25 are underclassmen, including mostly freshmen. So it's just incredible what he's been able to do.
Well,
and you look at Tennessee, they came in, they had shut out everybody. They got another shutout in this one. Their goalkeeper stood on their head and blocked a penalty kick that the Tigers took. But the Tigers had more chances than the Vols. And how do you come in and tie somebody and move up in the polls? That means there's a lot of respect for U of M women's soccer around the nation. The Tigers get the tie. They move up. They were 14th and 13th, I think, respectively in the polls. Now they're 8th and 10th. A legitimate top 10 team resides on the campus over there at the university.
Well, I think this team is going to be great for a long time. And if we go back through the annals, I've said this before, but it's worth repeating. There's only one other coach that I could think of because he brought college football to Memphis in a big way. That would be Billy Murphy. Other than Billy Murphy, there's not a guy with the impact on any program at the University of Memphis other than Brooks Monaghan, because the guy's 26 years. He's about to make his, I think it will be his 13th NCAA appearance. So half of the time he makes the NCAA, he's got 15 conference championships, I'm pretty sure. And he's the favorite to win a 16th. All in 26 years? Come on now. No one's done that.
And, they got screwed last year. They should have been in the tournament last year. They made it. They won the league regular season, and they played in the tournament championship game. I think it was against the USF. And there was a handball in the box. They got a penalty kick to win, but that handball was definitely questionable. And they should have been with all the teams they beat last year, they should have been in the tournament. How they got left there? What were they? 13-2-1 or some ridiculous record like that last year, and they don't get in. That did not make sense.
Well, they did not have the ranking they've got now. So no. I would imagine.
Well, they lead the SEC. They're 3-0 against the SEC now.
3-0-1.
3-0-1. Oh yeah, 3-0-1. Yeah. That's right, because that was a tie with Tennessee.
All right. What did you think of the Tigers at Georgia State? And through 2 games, what have you solidified in your mind about this team?
Well, we thought they'd be able to run the ball. So far, so good. They can run it even without Greg DeWosier, who I do not think will play again this week. I think they'll hold him out another week because he was in a boot, going out there to take the pregame toss. You don't just come out of a boot and start playing within a week. Maybe, he did recuperate from a broken collarbone last year to come on and set the world on fire at the end of the season. But, they want to take precautions with him, because they're really going to need him as we go down this stretch of the season. Once you get into conference play, this is a good league now. The one you had on before me said that, this is the American. Might be the year of the American when it comes to anything G5 or outside of the Power 4. So, and then you got Arkansas coming up a week from now. But I think they played well. I think the quarterback, Brendan Lewis, has been better than I expected because he throws a really good ball. He just didn't have to throw a lot because they have concentrated on running. I think the offensive line had graded out well. I think the Tigers have given up a little bit too much on the ground defensively. And that last game, you kind of I don't want to throw it out, but, when you got a new quarterback coming in and Ty Jerome is 6'7", 255, playing for the other guy who is a midget, respectively, and Jerome's been in a lot of program and been really good. He just can't stay out of trouble.
You mean Finley, T.J. Finley.
T.J. Finley. Ty Jerome, I'm thinking about the Grizzlies.
Yeah.
T.J. Finley, he's, that presented a different look for him, but once they figured it out, as you called it on the air, and make those adjustments at halftime, they did, and they shut them out 21-0 in the second half. So I think that they're on their way. The competition has leveled up incrementally in the first 2 games, and I think it's going to level up again this week with a Troy team that came off a tough loss at Clemson.
I'm with you. I thought the adjustments made at halftime were the difference. And I will point out, and I've said this on the air, that Ryan Silverfield said it would be a game of halftime adjustments because there were so many unknowns about Georgia State to begin with. Defensive fronts, the blitzing, and the other aspect was that would Finley play? They had to prepare for 4 different quarterbacks. So I give the coaches a lot of credit in that one. They're going to need to be real motivators and good alarm clock guys this week because this is a different circumstance. You got an 11 o'clock game, which normally I don't really mind. but I kind of do in this particular case because the Tigers are staying in Montgomery because there's not a big enough hotel, and you can't fly directly into Troy. You have to fly into Montgomery, an hour away. So the Tigers are going to get a wake-up call about 5:30 in the morning for this game. And then travel an hour to get to the game to the stadium. I think that makes this a very hard game, especially after the way that the Trojans played at Clemson.
Well, here's the deal. Teams that play Ole Miss have to do the same thing. They fly into Memphis, and then they bust down to Oxford. So, it's not something that hasn't been done, but the advantage for Memphis, at least one advantage is the Tigers are used to this early morning business because they practice in the morning before class. So they're already used to getting up and getting out there early and getting after it. The main thing is that 1 hour bus ride after eating breakfast, because they're going to have to eat a big meal because they won't eat again until after the game. So, you got to make sure you take care of all that stuff and get that out of your system before you get out there to go play. But, this game is kind of like, at Georgia State, they were a caged animal coming out after getting killed by the Rebels in Memphis, coming out, oh, wow, they got beaten so badly. It's a mental thing, You see that, and you see that score, and you say, well, I think we can do this without much effort, and then they get hit in the face. Okay, now we got to play. I think Troy got their attention immediately once they put up what they did against Clemson, shutting Clemson out in the first half, 16-0. Clemson did come back on them, but Troy put up more than almost 400 yards, 350 yards on them, I think. So they can move the ball, and they held their offense out of the end zone and off the scoreboard in the first half. So they must be worth something. So that definitely got their attention.
Well, remember this for your keys. Both teams are big plus on the giveaway takeaway, and they both force a lot of turnovers. So that I think will be critical in this game. And I can't wait to see what Brendan Lewis does against. This is going to be the best defense they have played all year. Jarvis, thank you much. I'll see you in a little bit on South Campus.
Headed that way.
And then
see you then, Dave.
And then we'll talk again next Thursday. That's the Hall of Famer, Jarvis Greer, on Tiger Football. He's brought to you by Ken. That's Ken Garland, Custom Home Builders, whether it is building a dream home or maybe it's renovation. I call it renovation with innovation because he'll take all the modern amenities, the movie room with the theater seating and the speakers on the wall, the island in the kitchen, the California closets, the granite countertops. They do all of those wonderful things, put them into your older home so you get to stay in the location and the lot that you love. It's that simple. Give them a call. Well, first go to the website, KenGarland.com. You'll see 3 generations. Ken Sr., Ken Jr., now Williams in the business of building for 80 years palaces all across the Memphis Metroplex. You can't help but be impressed. And know this, little details always get taken care of. The big picture is always in mind, and the job's never done. I mean, 6 months after the project's completed, something comes up, it's not quite right, they're there. They'll tell you that themselves when they do their commercials. They are your home builders. They are Ken Garland, Custom Home Builders. Johnny Radio's next. We got a complete Friday tomorrow. We make picks. We talk NBA. And we end the week, usually basketball. So we'll have fun tomorrow. That's for sure. See you then. Johnny Radio's right around the corner.